Hey Thor, what's your favorite FromSoft game? Is it Dark Souls, Bloodbutt, Shakira, or maybe Elmer Ring? Nah, dog, no souls. It's Enchanted Arms, baby! It's got Demon Soul, it's got the latest graphics, it's got cool tactical gameplay, and it's got big gay energy. So if you'd had to ask me at any point prior to my FromSoft video, my answer actually would have been Echo Knight for the Sony PS1. A spooky, ghostly, adventure gamey relic of a time when FromSoft did more than making the same type of title over and over again. Well, they did that too, but they also did a ton of other stuff. JRPGs, action-adventure games, survival horror, and really fun game devly things, like, say, releasing their Kingsfield engine for folks to play around with, or dropping the Adventure Player on PSP, a cool tool that made people make small story-driven adventures. From themselves would include 3, but there's also a bunch of user-generated content out there even still. Whoa. The engine was a little limited in that users were stuck with the same framework, but asset-wise, hams could be gone with folks using everything from renders to hand-drawn drawings. One game could see you exploring a bunny Y2K spaceship, another sees you off looking at someone's adorablest efforts with tiny toy cars and a crusty digital camera. And the next thing you know, you're mashing button to get a PNG hand to turn off an alarm clock. And there's much more out there readily available to check out even today. Sadly, none of it ever officially left Japan, so languages might be buried. Though that does bring me to our first game, Gecko Knight: The First Voyage. One of the 3 games made in this engine by FromSoft themselves, now released as a standalone fan translation itself, also for the PSP.
It's tail time!
Personally, I find the 3 main Echo Knights to genuinely be very scary. They got those old Kingsfield controls with the slow turns, the big beefy steps of commitment, and the in the face of the makes a player feel shackled down, or as if I'm sinking, barely able to react properly to something that I can hear behind me or see appearing in front of me. Just claustrophobic. But this one's a VN adventure game, and so naturally things are going to end up hitting a little different. It takes place on the same ship as one, though, only instead of Dream Vision teleporting about as Richard Osmond, age 25, you actually take control of a crew member. There, in real time, with everyone else already being dead. Left to roam as remnants left to roam. Shadows of memories that need to be reconnected to both send them off to the afterlife satisfied as can be, and to uncover what caused all this. You see, talking to folks will grant you memory pieces, sometimes right away or after having brought them an item. These pieces, in either case, as if a puzzle, will need to be put in their place, very literally, so that slowly but surely more pieces will give way to more pieces, thus giving way to memories that can put a ghost at rest. Of course, many people on this boat will have had prior engagement with each other, which will mean that memos might begin to cross over too, and that's essentially the game. Using the pieces as names, what shadows tell you, notes, environmental cues, room titles, and main character observations gained from pointing and clicking to figure out what piece go where, which, ain't gonna lie, is fairly straightforward. Thing is, the writing is really punchy and punctual, keeping things brief, briefing the player on what need to be known and not too much else. Not lacking in flair neither, but really only using it to make said descriptive texts more memorable. And the simple interactivity and atmosphere helps with that as well, I'd argue. Glacially moving the cursor over to a bunk bed and seeing it being described as brand new yet damp, or a sink as if never being used, instantly paints a strange picture, like, okay, seems new, but isn't? So the ship is abandoned? Was it ever even used? All the while, the audible creaking and churning of the boat is always present, even over the music, which sounds equally damp and muffled. Yeah, exactly. It's a very musky game. an abandoned old artifact meant to be curiously uncovered and explored, all aiding to when then a character might mention having been in a moist bed or having heard a certain thing from where they were. Cogs of the brain should start whirring up with moist musings that have since been stuck behind. Legit. Even though visually it's a bunch of blurry still image screenshots of a fucking PS1 game, it still instills a lot of stuff that lets one's imagination color it in proper, thus automatically making it more memorable.
Oh, little boy.
That said, by the time you gain access to more of the boat and thus more people to keep track of, it do begin to turn the game into a game of backtracking back and forth, hurriedly clicking past places just trying to get to where I knew I needed to go. And that's not even covering the repetitive tedium of not knowing where you're supposed to go. Sometimes certain clickables are also way too obscure too. I mean, the cursor sensitivity is on PSP nipple nub tier, and yet they still expect you to be able to discern that this thing is a bell and that it's its own interactable. Quite a crucial one too. It can certainly get tedious that way in either way, though at the same time, whenever I was decently on the ball, there was also a very satisfying sense of determination to my actions. As if I was stomping about the ship like a man's with a plan. I suppose now would be a good time to point out that it retreads a fair bit of the original Echo Knight. Ghost needing booze, girl wanting doll, same ship, obviously, but it isn't a remake or retelling exactly. It's similar to what Silent Hill play novel is to Silent Hill 1, aka a visual novel reimagining banking on the notion that you are familiar with the work it's based upon. So then, things like the little bell make a bit more sense, as the very moment I clicked on it, I did defo get flooded with memories of having dinged it in games of games past. What's cool as well is how it plays with expectations that way. For one, there aren't any hostile ghosts around this time. Even the dimliest, spookiest framed ones will instead just be sat-sacking it up, bathing the player in a musky blanket of sorrow. Guess you aren't playing as an outsider this time, so that makes sense. And for two, where this game grants you a sense of familiarity that can be used for the gameplay, it also flips the narrative into being less about the individual ghosts and more about the ship itself and what happened to it. I mean, shit only just happened a little while ago. No one's had time to even stew in misery to the point of aggression. People are still very newly distressed about what just occurred here, and through helping him out, you get to piece together exactly that. Which is cute. Not the most intense revelation or even the most necessary information, but considering what the game is, I think that's pretty neat. And hey, at least it isn't Vampire Rain. Oh my god, my fucking ears. Oh, Jesus. More like Vampire Pain. Yeah, I played this fucker last year for my big dumb PS3 video and ended up getting stuck about an hour of the way in. On my French and Pokies channels, there's even a video documenting that in Le Funny Moments form.
Forget it. Nothing can save her now.
Yeah. Fucking shaky legs.
Forget it.
What the fuck? Damn, bro. She's fucking stanky lagged up that fucking pipe.
One of the reasons I even wanted to check it out at all, though, was this screenshot. This PS360 aesthetic ass, peace sky having ass, old lighting ass, aliased ass vibe. I usually fuck with shit like this. Made a whole 2-hour-long video about it. So I figured it was worth a second try to get that far into the game so I could see it with my own two eyes. How'd it go, you ask? Well... The game takes place in a city where vampires rule the night. We play a Snake Fisher, who's part of a secret operations team called Delivery Hot and Fast, Pizza Deliver Man, and they have to sneak their way about that city to figure out what and why various times.
Colonel Dixon, we have just received contact from the Advanced Recon Team located at point E9, sir.
E9? Dang. Should have had E10. eat 10 these nuts. Solid Sam here has a grudge against the zombies, and the captain knows the captain's captain, and this chick lost her brother, so you know we got those personal stakes. And also...
Lloyd, take a look at this.
Looks like something drawn by a Nightwalker using blood.
If that's blood, the rain would have washed it away.
Yeah, but the blood's been mixed with a hardener.
Hardener? What kind of hardener?
Do you really want to know?
No, I guess not.
Come.
It's too dark in here. I think we better break out the night vision goggles.
Okay.
Let's move.
Yeah, I don't know about this too dark thing, to be honest. Yeah, that's fucking good. The atmosphere, though, is genuinely great. The detailed rainy specks on models, the copious warm, gloomy ember point lights, funny signs, and roads coming alive, reflecting, aliasing, glistening, gleaming. I also dig the choice of rain and thunder sounds over music, only being interrupted by the odd, comfy, old Let's Play level audio having ass intercom messages and footsteps. Suits the pace of it very well as well. Having those slow rope down, crouch walk, sit-o climb and hang froms type feels similar to Splinter Cell, which is essentially what this game is. A horror Splinter Cell. Although where most stealth games tend to fall on the linear side of things or more set-piecey, Vampire Reign has massive environments allowing for fairly open exploration with rooftops to run along, back alleys to sneak through, fences to hop, and streets to dash through. Each mission begins with a "we need to go here," and then it's either up to you or the plot or a bit of both as to how to get there, which I like. The level design is actually pretty darn good, as are the controls, smooth, good, contextual snapping, intuitive climbing, funny jumps. It's not too heavy nor too floaty, it just feels nice to play. With the only point of contention for me being said funny jumps, as you sort of need them to ledge, but you can't jump while crouched, and so you have to be upright to ledge, but I like to crouch more cause stealthy, but that's really only it in regards to the basics of handlement. The simple act of simply exploring or getting from A's to B's is quite engrossing overall, I find. It's just, whenever the enemies get involved, things tend to go to shit. Thing is, they're hella fast, hella aggro, hella jittery, and hella stupid, stopping at nothing, even harming themselves to harm you. On top of that, they're also everywhere, casually walking the streets disguised as regular civilians until they spot you, and when they do, you can try to shoot, but honestly, you're basically already dead. However, this is cause this game actually wants the player to play this very differently than how they would a Metal Gear or Splinter Cell. When I last played it and I got stuck, I was also sort of rushing through, knowing I'd only need a smidge of footage and that it wasn't going to be a major part of the video, and so I skipped out on the optional tutorials. And let me tell you, this time, I'm very glad I didn't, as knowing how to play changed my entire outlook on Vampire Reign. For example, the tutorials, much more so than the story missions, hammer home that you should never even really be in combat, let alone near the vampires to begin with. They also show you basic tools like necrovision that allow the player to scope out who on the map is or isn't a vampoid, as well as unlocking the MGS vision cones. They also display how the abilities that the base game does explain carry far more utility than what you may have thunked. Look at this! One may say that this seems like a very obvious solution, but the main levels don't even show it as an option, and the tutorials do. And more importantly, they highlight how the largeness of the map itself is a tool to be used too. To the point, I'ma dub this game with Wide Berth Stealth as its gameplay genre tagline. Don't try to MGS shit. If you can help it, just don't even be near him. Find ways around, not past, if that makes any sense. If Vamps is on road, be on roofs. If they're in the alleyways, be out on the streets and circle a block. Climb, sidle, rope, dangle, crawl. If there's enemies in a place, it is, more often than not, a sign to stay away, and not because it's a point of interest. So take the other way around. That's the type of mindset you need to be in, and nothing in the main game really prepares you for that idea. It merely hits you with the guided first level using only some of the base mechanics and showing you that you can shoot them, which most likely explains every review of the game complaining about it being too hard and them dying all the time. It certainly explains why I got stuck as well, because we was on the ground with the vampire zombies getting ganked over and over, and this time I surveyed the area more and found a sneaky high ground way around. Sure, it was perhaps a bit too well hidden, and the fact that the easiest to spot route leads you to the ground could also be seen as shitty or mean design, but when combined with the tutorials, it did, to me, paint a clear message of, okay, this is not the best way to play.
Rhinoceros. Special offer? What?
What's going on in this town?
Why is there so much distance between the $sign and the 30?
Anyway, that's the first 3 levels done. After this point, VP becomes more hands-off, largely letting the player decide how to traverse, and just getting to higher ground, panning around and seeing so many ridges, ladders, wires, and rooftops. It is such a satisfyingly intricate puzzle of urban space. The fact that shit isn't signposted heavily like, go here, climb this, with lights or whatever the fuck, I actually grew to really appreciate too. I was the one scoping out where to go, thinking about things, listening to where I heard zombie sounds, tagging them with necrovision if I saw them, and really taking in the space I was inhabiting and the many options it provided. Whenever the game does put you in more MGS-y situations, it's generally really tense as well, knowing that there's basically no room for error now. All that freedom of intuiting navigation now needs to be concentrated into a small space under high pressure. Because when you're seen, you're dead. And it's got more cool sort of gameplay variations like that too. A sniper mission, picking off dudes, gaining vantage points and whatnot, or little stand downs, gunning them down with the homies by the dozen, which also highlights that, again, the game controls quite well. Shooting feels pretty great, very fine-tuned with a generous reticle size.
The shooting in this game feels fucking horrible.
Honestly, it looks thick as hell, the controls.
So this fucking piece of shit, it's what I used at the time. It's a bootleg controller. On eBay, these are like sold as if they're real. That's not crust, that's not dirt, it's just fucked up that way. These buttons never really worked. There's like really visible seams in there, which is fucked up. But yeah, if you ever wonder why in a lot of my videos, like when I talk about like Demon Souls and stuff in that one video I did, my camera work is very like rigid and wooden seeming in like PS3 games. It's because of this thing, because there's no like acceleration on these. If you hold them like a little, they instantly just fucking like is fucked up. Fucking piece of shit.
Provided one's positioned far enough, it is absolutely possible to fuck these guys up when prompted. There's just a time and place for that, essentially. In general, though, a lot of design went into these stages. They're big, but it's not like they could just get lazy with the enemy placement. The routes you find do feel like intended routes, with either little event triggers, maybe you overhear some guards talking or find some additional goodies. It'll still feel like a directed game. Some levels are also more flat or some more vertical. There's a samey look to the whole thing for sure, like due to budgetary reasons, but from a gameplay perspective, it's definitely not as if each stage is the same. They really really did make the most out of the toolset that the game operates under, even expanding it as it go. At one point, giving you access to limited use knives for stealth takedowns, for instance, or introducing the idea that zombies can be parented to one another, meaning that if you kill the main one, they all go. There's also a point where you get a shotgun when inside of an apartment building, which can point blank gun nut motherfuckers to shit no biggie, essentially being a, there you go ham for a bit. Honestly, Vampire Reign's biggest issue is it just not explaining or telegraphing things. Sure, while exploring that can be a strength, but like, it's quite easy to die several times doing something that you think is a viable option when it simply isn't. In most cases, the higher ground is your friend rings true. Take deaths as a hint, I guess, would be my biggest advice, as when I got that mindset, Vampire Reign stopped being hard in any capacity and was just like very fun and chill. Suppose it does overstay its welcome a little maybe. My playthrough was about 13 hours and it's a little much. I don't think we needed the giant bomb defusal mission in an area already used or reusing any areas at all, and I'm not sure introducing the villains halfway through the plot was really the best idea either. I think maybe more like 8 hours would have been better. Also, yeah, the effect used on the vampire voices is heavy clipping distortion for some fucking reason, which leads to some mind-boggling effects. Do quite like the story though, as simple as it is simply about tracking down the cause of the vampires in this town as a rogue team abandoned by their superiors, thus forced to take the reins. But that scroungy sorta on-site procurement vibe really works for me. All missions build up upon each other. Track down this corpse, find the black box recording of the team that went in before us, learn of the weapon stash, go there, learn shit about the whereabouts of some important guy.
Our prime walker now has a face. His name is Edward Van Dyke.
I'm sorry, what? Shit like that. All the while, there's a cute bit of mystery with this spooky Japanese game blonde child girl that keeps appearing, as well as the prior mentioned cum logo and what it means. And while the cast is kinda dumb and simple, you do spend a lot of time with them. There's many cutscenes, primarily taking place inside of their cozy little pizza van that they used to get about, with the rain bashing on down as they talk. Shit's cozy for a start, but they and you also do slowly get the sense that they really are in it alone and that they do have fuck all in terms of leads or even gear. And like for as survivally as Resi games are, and as on-site procurement-y as MGS games are, you rarely really truly feel the characters feel that too. Oh my god. Other than maybe Raiden bitching about shit. And I fuck with what Vampire Reign does with that and how it uses it as the main driving point of the story. It made me care for them and it, at least a little bit, and I think that that's just neat. Cause not gonna lie, I think this game might be misunderstood. It's its own fault in a way for not conveying what it expects from the player very well at all, and perhaps the later released PS3 Redux that I'm playing changed a bunch of shit from the OG 360 release, but I really enjoyed it. It's just obviously a AA budget game, and those simply tend to not review very well, which I've begun to feel a bit of a way about in recent years. Like, I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna say it again. Sonic is right here. I agree. We should probably celebrate games like this. It's trying something unique by combining survival horror and stealth with cool open-ended design that was very rare on this gen, and also has funny cutscenes with meme voice acting, so, oh yeah, I quite like Vampire Reign anyway. At least on PS3. It is delicious. Wait. Hold on. I never fucking saw this place. What the hell? Guess it is during the day-ish. And for plot reasons, the entire title takes place at night during rainfall. You do go to the docks and naturey bits and interiors. It's not all the same looking, but that is at least consistent, so I don't know, what the fuck is up with this? Wait, multiplayer?
Oh shit, here we go again.
So bafflingly, the online is still up and running. Just no one is playing. But I can host a game. Even getting into PSN though is an issue in and of itself in a post-P update QR-coded landscape, but I eventually managed, thus making the next step finding people who own the game on a PS3. or a PS3 and not have it stashed away in an attic somewhere, which what an easy. Got my friend Hazel to at least look for a copy, but sadly that went nowhere. Though my friend Nino was able to pick one up and boom, there he is. Whoa. As we soon found out though, the minimum requirement for a game is 4 players, and that's where this adventure ended. Looking at the IGN video, it does seem fittingly dumb and fun. Just the sheer volume of slidey lines on this map alone indicates to me that this is stupid Metal Gear Online, and I like that idea. But for today, it was regrettably not to be. Next game. Tonkin House. Straight Tonkin. Tonkin and smoking. Man, what the fuck? That's catist. There's no way a cat would ever kill anyone. Tonkin House is a rather mysterious old developer responsible for a variety of old CG FMV pre-rendered games from the 90s. Cat the Ripper being the one I was originally gonna put in here as... well, I mean, look at it. But it's also wholly in Japanese, and their games are esoteric as fuck, and going through whatever this is in the no hablo zone might be a little too much post-Vampire Rain, you know? Luckily for us then, their title Juggernaut did make it overseas. An oppressive little ditty full of demonic vibes stemming from your GF curse because she drank some stank juju juice which caused this to happen. Thusly, she had to be tightly the heck downly in the freak dungeon by a priest who tells you that you have to venture inside of her to exorcise the demon. And from here, Juggernaut quickly establishes that because we're inside of a dreamscape, literally anything will go. This guy you're talking to might turn into a birdcage with a clock in it. You also change the dog card into the dog card, into the evil card, into the live card, which then rots you to death where you stand, only to then reveal that this was all inside of a painting inside of a mansion, which is where you are now, within which one faces through peepholes as a ghost until stumbling across a body machine that literally syringes your ass into heads and just, oh god, this game is evil. The gameplay factors into that notion quite well as it's a D-like, i.e. like pushing buttons to trigger cutscenes and camera movements, ostensibly turning every direction you turn in into being dragged by the hair, eyes forced open into some fucked up looking shit. Juggalo's presentation is legit unlike anything else. Well, kind of similar to the game's lunacy and gadgets. The latter, as I once mused, has since been confirmed to have intentionally used the uncanniness of 90s CG to make scary. And there's no way that Juggernaut isn't also doing that. From the always stark lighting or jarring cuts with freak animations to the confronting framing on models with fucky faces, and audio work that's never not overbearing. This simple, drony, percussive loop puts the entirety of this jungle area in a meditative sort of trance as you get lost in the sauce. And there's nothing quite like scoring a quiet log cabin with this shit. all goes to paint a rather oppressive image. Even if the game gets weird or wacky at times, it'll always maintain a profoundly cursed energy. Much like Kingdom Hearts, JUGGERNAUT starts off on a nice sunny beach. A nice, sunny beach. The sun in front of me looks as if it were a bag filled with blood. It's a gory star that paints the world in a bloody red. Okay. From here, you can sludge your way into the dark compression forest, scale your way up a scant Demon Soulsian tower walls, all the while the blood-red sky and the ebb and flowing sounds of nature ominously linger on. JUGGERNAUT is 100% one of those everything is fucked up type of games. Man drinking coffee will be bolstered by purple smoke and grossly exaggerated sniffing. Or remembering a nice morning waking up next to a lady friend will sound like. Or you can just be casually chatting to someone when suddenly. I fucking thought something was wrong here for a minute, but the game is just like this. Ooh, damn. This dude is called Scorobus. Also, shout out to Barack Betty. JUGGERNAUT has great names. The cursor spins when hovering over something that can be engaged with, which, for a game like this, and this old, is surprisingly intuitive. Negates moments like the Echo Night Bell, for example. You can also only examine shit when you only can examine shit, like a move forward can be a move forward or a examine, so that inherently limits confusion, and it even highlights keywords in all caps. Controls can be a little awkward, certainly, as it uses circle to forward text, but X to confirm or select anything else otherwise, and yeah, but then you also possess the ability to save anywhere, anytime, and also there's no fail states. One can get bonked on the head by a giant knight statue with a sword and only end up right back in front of it, knowing that this is something that has to be dealt with later. Which is great. If I'd have died here, shit would have been hella tedious with how slow getting around and the text and, oh, really everything is. Cause, yeah, the gameplay can already be plenty tedious on its own, if I'm honest. It's sort of split up into 3 main modes. One is riddle puzzles conveyed textually, audially, or visually. Play a record, playing a sound corresponding to doors to figure out which ones to open, stuff like that. 2 is resi puzzles, i.e. hit the switch, turn off the thing, shove the pendant in the slot, combine the items in your inventory type shit. And 3 is fuck you, no gameplay. Just trigger dialogue sequences by going to the right places. All of these can be easy, but also easier said than done, as JUGGERNAUT has giant environments and movement is about as tedious as it looks, and trust me, just seeing it ain't even half the fucking pain. Like sure, it's often hard to distinguish what is even happening while turning, and due to the render limitations, the game will often spin you background a lot too, so even exploring a tiny room with maybe 2 or 3 objects worth looking at can still feel just that smidge too tedious. But also, really though, again though, we have giant fuck off environments. Lunacy, D, Gadgets. These bitches is all under 2 hours, but Juggalo is a whopping 12 hours spread across 3 discs. Maybe 4 would have been better, as the fucking compression is way too crushed at times, but this also means that they could stuff whole games worth of games into just this one game. The mansion area, for instance, is as big and complicated as any Resi mansion would be, only you move like this. A whole 3 to 4 hours, which is with a walkthrough, because God damn! Of moving down the same hallways, opening the same doors over and over, trying to keep track of several misstyle puzzles and inventory puzzles all at once, rewatching the same animations time and time again, re-listening to hella audio cues to make things sure, all the while the orientation is ostensibly bunk, fuck, and bupkis. Bupkis. To be fair, it's all ambitious as heck. Making a game this big that plays this way is very impressive, but I think a lot also comes at the cost of that. You see, it's not even just go down the hall to the right, open the door, but awkward. It's go down the hall to the right, open the door, change the body, go down the hall to the left, through the hole, change to the small body, go back down the hall to the right, then to the left, through the small door, change body here, turn around, go back, down the other hall, open drawer, get item, go back, and do all of that in reverse just to use the item elsewhere. That's one little puzzle. Because, of course, you can only become tiny on the top floor and be human on the first floor, and to get to the basement, you have to be tiny, and just shit's fucking soul draining. Fittingly so, but holy fucking shit, dog, goddamn. Especially when, as all of this is going, the atmosphere wears off and the gameplay remains raw, implying that there ain't much in the way of the cool prior freaky interruptions, characters, or happenings. They come back later. Oh, you betcha they do. But the mansion smegment in particular is still pure unbridled suffering, and sadly, it's most of Disc 1. Afterwards, on 2, you get to embody a secret agent on a mission to a far-off prison island that society isn't allowed to know about due to its ethically dubious, immoral human experiments. And boom. Round you go. Talking to actual characters in a space that isn't giant as fuck. Goddamn James Bond shopping nerds for scientist uniforms and getting to have some fun partaking in the actual experiments at hand. Legit though, there's people here. Characters, no form switching bullshit, so things was automatically streamlined, more so being a cool vignette with its own tone, setting, and I guess playstyle, given that you're primarily triggering story sequences now, teaching you all about the internal rules and politics of the prison, going through exciting action sequences, doing some computer hacking, teaming up with a buddy, and making other friends, all the while more than one actual song plays. Whole thing lasts about an hour and is super cool, and there's much more variety where that came from too. As after that, you become stranded on a hardly inhabited murder island with skunk jungles, and just the tone of this segment is incredibly fucking potent. The writing, the vivid sparseness, the damn blur making it hard to distinguish mud from dirt, from blood, from rust, all the stank of it suddenly harmoniously coming together to create the image of a bleak island terrorized by some type of invisible murder threat. The eyes always feeling present. That could very well be some hokey Predator shit, but it's all scored by constant sounds of a somber roads repetitively drudging along with tumultuous winds and seas wailing away in the distance. Also visualized by perpetually grey skies, as the thing actually haunting this island is, and I kid you not, the specter of colonialism. Which is so goddamn different from what came before, let alone what most other games of this era, or even now really, attempt to do, and there's also zero puzzles here as well. Only jungle exploration and sadness. And then from there you get to go shooting guns with an actual little minigame as a cool alcoholic assassin. There's a fucking town-ass town later with a murder mystery drama, a random bit of sound novel, a cool short story about a journalist tracking down some insane Africa pillaging scientist hiding deep in the dark woods, and so many much more that I don't quite want to spoil. So yeah, disc 2 and 3 fucking own. They're weird, wild, depressing, funny, scary, and actually fun to play despite the controls still being dookie, just through the sheer variety, pace, and creativity of it all. That said, by the time I was gunning down Android CEOs with goofy villain-esque buttons and exploring vaporwavy cyber museums and doing some Slenderman the 8 pages type shit, I did sort of begin to forget that this all started off as a genuinely horrific horror game about your demonic juju GF, as Juggernaut essentially turns, as stated, into a series of vignettes over time that you only get to 2 after having suffered the mansion. But then I sort of respect all of that as well. Juggalo reeks to me as if this inspiration-based blast of excitement. Many ideas passionately worked on, all coming together in an experimental, incohesive mess of creativity. Similar to something like Moon in that sense, and I love seeing shit like that for sure. And if anything, that certainly makes it rather mysterious. Horror Games 3 title.